Thank you, Cahir. Look, just a couple of more questions. Do you think the bill in its current form in the general scheme will result in the centralisation of control in the higher education sector? Because that's a broader question for everybody. Also, in terms of the 1971 Act, that set out the democratisation of the third level sector as an objective. Do you think this is still relevant today, and does this bill further this, or does it contradict it? And I just want to get back briefly to the funding model and the CSO categorisation. So in 2018, we saw Eurostat and the CSO, when they revisited the assessment of the control of universities, they came up with, obviously, the criteria: autonomous institutions and under public or private control, or market or non-market. But the result of that was that the universities were seen as autonomous institutions under public control and as a market operator. So I just cannot see how. I think that we can manage everything that needs to be achieved and still remain off the balance sheet. In 2018, the CSO report clearly states that all fee income, whether that's paid by households or by the state on behalf of households, is treated as sales. And this would mean that provided a funding model is correctly designed, that the universities could continue to have full off-state balance sheet borrowing. So maybe Jim or Dr. Ryan, you could maybe address the last question, but then the other questions for everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Joe, I'll cede to you first if you like this time. I don't want to come in first each time. That's okay.
Not at all, Jim. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy, for the question. On the question of central control, which if you don't mind, I just mentioned a quick. I think no is the answer. I don't think there's any intention for that. However, the question is, what does the bill lead us to? I think strong autonomous institutions, with central support and with the ultimate ability of an authority to come in where it's necessary, I think is the goal from a bill such as this. On the question of democratisation, absolutely. I think that's the way we've seen our higher education institutions go. And what I would love to see come out of this consideration of the reform is, an increase in democratisation. And I think if we respect the landscape that we have now with traditional universities, technological universities, institutes, etc., I think there's a place for everyone in that. And obviously, we're trying to construct a system where people can move pathways through from further to higher education. Your last piece, I fully agree with you on this. I think the critical piece when we get down to consider what comes back from Europe on castles is actually ensuring that we facilitate that access into the borrowing framework, that we construct it in a way. And again, my reading will be very much on the same lines as yourself, Deputy. Thank you.
Deputy, I think. Sorry.
I suppose could I just make a point there just to say that in my comments earlier, one of the things I said was that wide and diverse governing body with strong, good, strong regional membership would obviously guard very much against what you're talking about in relation to the whole area of centralisation.
Sure. On the question of democratisation, I spoke earlier about the need for clearer indicators on progression. As I sit here in Sandymount, 3 miles to the southwest, there is a 99% participation in third level education in Dublin 6. 3 miles to me to the northwest, there's a 15% participation in higher education in Dublin 17. Now, these figures have not significantly changed since they were first taken out, first calculated by Dr. Pat Clancy in the 60s and 70s. Now, that is the greatest indictment on us all. It is the greatest indictment on the progress of the democratization of education. We simply haven't achieved significant change. Now, and I think, and that's why I'm talking about progress indicators. We need a dashboard setting out indicators. And if we don't like the indicators, what we need to do is to improve them, not to have different indicators. So I do think there's a problem here. And I think that, in fact, these indicators need to be revisited every year and they need to be improved. I'm not saying nothing is done, okay? But at the same time, there is a significant problem here and there's a significant shortfall.
Chairman, we're aware of your clock, but very briefly, I would say I would urge the committee to have a special session on access in the near future, because I think there's a very substantive issue that we need to discuss there. We do need to recognise that progress has been made, but it's not enough. I mean, we do have a record number of applicants this year under the Dare Here schemes, and that's very encouraging. But it's those who haven't applied or who don't get in is the ones I think that we need to focus on, as Jeremy has rightly outlined. On the loans issue, look at this. Simply the point I was making is we need to avoid the law of unintended consequences in terms of the legislation, and I suppose that is, it's important that we retain access to loan funding for the system, because otherwise I think we could create a real problem.
Thank you very much. And I would say maybe to Chair, just to finish, I think we and you may already have it in hand, but we would need the CSO in for a particular session just to examine that, as Jim said, so that there aren't unintended consequences and that we have a model that is suitable.
Okay,